Good morning, everyone. Wanted to talk with you today about Be Our Guest. What do I mean by that? So I am in Puerto Rico staying with some friends, and I've been looking for a place down here. And one of the things that hit my heart today is staying with friends or being guests of someone is similar to our relationship with God. So, what do I mean? I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie Beauty and the Beast, but there's a famous song called Be Our Guest, and it's a scene where the dishes are dancing around. Belle had just arrived at the castle and they're serving her dinner for the first time. But when we look at the scriptures, many times there's a lot of scriptures about being our guest, and a lot of times when we talk about it, we're talking more about hospitality. We're talking about how we need to open our homes up to people, how we need to be giving to other people, and more from the perspective of being a host. But today, what I want to talk about and what I'd like you to think about is what you're like when you are a guest of your friends. What are you like when you go stay with other people? So we all know from an etiquette perspective that there are certain protocols that you follow when you are a guest of someone. You don't go into someone's house trying to take control of the situation. You don't do whatever you want, just whatever you feel like when you're staying with a person. When you stay with a friend, you're always considering or asking your friend, hey, can I do this? Is it okay if I do that? Do you mind if I do this? You're asking permission because you respect your friend and because you're grateful that your friend has allowed you to stay with them. And you also take care of their place. So when you're staying with a friend, you make the bed, you clean up after yourself. Good morning. You pick up trash off the floor, you make sure you put your towels away. You keep the place tidy because you're trying to make sure you're keeping their place in the same condition it was before you came, because you are grateful to your friend for letting you stay with them. And so when you're a guest, the other thing that I thought about is that you're careful and considerate, that you don't want to wake them up. You're quiet in the morning because you want to let them sleep in. You clean your own dishes, or you do the dishes of when they're cooking for you. Because if you think about it, when you're a guest of someone's, and they're the host, they take care of you, they provide for you, they serve you, they feed you, they give you a place to sleep and a place to take a shower. They're providing everything for you as a guest, and in return as a guest, you're grateful, considerate, and respectful. You wouldn't go stay at someone's house and be loud and abusive. You wouldn't stay at someone's house and be defiant or haughty. You wouldn't be disobedient. Like if they said, don't do this, you wouldn't go do that. You just wouldn't do it. That just by human nature, I don't care who you are. If you're staying with someone, you're going to be respectful of their home. You're going to be respectful because it's their house. It's their rules. It's their kingdom, if you want to call it that. So I want to give you a different spin on this, because this really kind of shocked me when I started reading it and praying about it. Is in Psalm 24:1, it says, "The earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it." And good morning. So we need to understand that this earth and everything in it is God's. This is His house. This is His kingdom. It's His stuff. We are just visitors here. We all have an end time. We don't create the sun. We don't make the water. We don't design the rocks. Good morning, Rudy. We have not made any of this stuff. All of this stuff here on this earth is the Lord's. And so if you think about it from the perspective of, if we would start acting as if we are a guest in God's house, and we started acting more like that, how much different would we be? How much more careful would we be? How much more respectful would we be? How much more kind would we be, or gracious would we be towards other people? Because if I think about it, and I go into a situation and I go into someone's house and they have friends over, guess what? Even no matter who those friends are, I'm going to be kind to those friends. I'm going to be gracious to those friends, only because they are guests of the host who I'm staying with. So it's amazing when you start thinking about it from this perspective. So when you become a disciple of Jesus, when you enter God's kingdom, God's house, you are accepting the invitation that God is giving you to be his guest. He is welcoming you into his home, into his family. And you're understanding when you accept that invitation that there are laws and rules of that family that you've been invited into. And it isn't this whole thing that people try to say, well, God just wants you to obey and it's all about the rules and he's so restrictive or so whatever, legalistic. But it's not about that. It's about the same heart of what you would be like if you stayed with a friend. So imagine your house that you live in now. Imagine that it's God's. And think about how you're taking care of it. Think about those kids, that spouse, those friends, that job, every single thing in your life. Think about this. Think about this being God's, and that you are a guest, or you are just borrowing it, or you are just being allowed to participate in it, or to live there, or to have those friends, or to have that job. And it's a gift that's been given to you. So when we think about the fact that we're his guests, we're going to act different towards everyone. We're going to be more careful about how we take care of what he's giving us or what we're getting to participate in. And it's amazing how much my mindset, just even in this small concept of thinking about being a guest and this is all God's, it's crazy how it's not about me. It's not mine. This isn't my house. These aren't my kids. This isn't my stuff. This is God's stuff that I get to use. And how much more respectful and grateful should I be? And how much more will it change my heart about things because he's allowing me to be a part of it? So as I started going through the scriptures about it, when you start thinking about this, it's like, wow, this is kind of crazy. So there are many, many, many. I saw all these examples of Jesus about being guests in people's houses, and he uses it a lot in the parables. And you see him deal with people in their hearts on both sides. He deals with people from the situation of being a host, and he deals with people from the situation of being a guest. So with Martha and Mary in Luke 10, and I really encourage you guys to go back and watch or go back and read all of these scriptures, because it'll really hit your heart when you start looking at it from this perspective. Jesus deals with Martha's heart because she's worried about many things, and she, instead of doing what's important, which is sitting at Jesus's feet and learning. And with the Pharisee in Luke 7, Jesus deals with the Pharisee's heart because he's judgmental, he's critical, and the woman is washing his feet, and he's like talking to the Pharisee saying, you didn't even do what's common practice back then and offer me water to wash my feet when I entered your house. So he's not even a good host. And with Martha, he's saying, you know, you're so worried about being a host that you're not taking care of your guests. Then in Luke 14, Jesus notices that people are taking a place of honor at the table when they are guests, and he tells them a parable about a wedding banquet, and he talks about the host has to ask people to move because people are coming that are more distinguished than them. And he deals with their heart of pride and their heart of lifting themselves up and thinking more highly of themselves than they should do, and so they weren't good guests. Then in another situation in Luke 14, Jesus deals with the other side of the situation, with guests being invited to a banquet, and they're making excuses of why they don't come. And finally the host says, go out and invite everybody in the street, all the poor people, everybody, and those people don't get in. And it's like, wow, you know, Jesus is talking about, you know, if you're making excuses, God is inviting you to the banquet. God is inviting you into his kingdom. He is inviting you to be his guests in this amazing journey that he has available to you. And are you one of those guests making excuses? You know, are you saying, oh, I can't come because of this, I can't come because of that, I can't, you know, can't be a part of the party because of whatever. And basically in the one in Luke 14, it talks about how God is saying hey, listen, not only am I going to take your invitation away, you didn't accept the invitation, so you're not going to get into the party. You're not going to get the blessings. You're not going to get the banquet. You're not going to get all of the great things that I'm making available to you because you didn't accept my invitation. And then in Luke 19, we all have heard the story of Zacchaeus and how he welcomes Jesus as his guest. And Zacchaeus is so moved and so humbled by wanting to make things right with God and with Jesus that he tells Jesus, I'm going to give away half of my possessions to the poor, and if I've cheated anybody out of anything, I'm going to pay them back 4 times. And what an amazing example of a heart, because he shows the perfect example of being grateful and a repentant heart. So the question comes down to, how are you as a guest? Have you accepted the invitation to be a guest of God in this world that he owns? Have you acknowledged and realized that you are a guest on this earth, that you don't own this earth or anything in it, that you won't get to take anything with you, that you are a guest here? So are you accepting the invitation? And are you respectful? Are you a grateful guest? Because we have all been invited into this kingdom of God. We have been extended an amazing invitation to the great banquet here on earth, because he does give you blessings on this earth when you come into his kingdom, as well as the great banquet at the end that we will all be able to accept for eternity. Or are you going to make excuses as far as why you're not coming or why you didn't accept the invitation? We all have the same opportunity. Every single one of us. There's none of us that God has not invited. It doesn't matter who you are, how much bad stuff you've done in your life, what background you've come from, what color or race you are. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. It doesn't matter. We've all been invited, and we've all been given this same invitation. So we have to accept the invitation first. We have to show up to the banquet, meaning we have to show up in this relationship with God. We have to act the right way, and we be respectful and be grateful and act as a guest would act at coming into someone's home. And then we will enjoy the blessing of the banquet. We will enjoy all of these things that are being offered to us. So I know this is kind of a unique message, kind of different, but it really hit me. And I think it's kind of cool when we look at it from this way, that we are a guest of God. We've been given an amazing invitation, and I hope every single one of you will accept. And I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.